Welcome to this journey through the grounded and sensual world of Taurus and the second house, the realm of value, stability, and self-worth. Whether it's the Sun, Moon, Venus, or any other planet placed here, the energy becomes focused on what you possess, not just in the material sense, but in terms of inner resources, security, and what you truly treasure. The second house is all about foundations, money, comfort, physical well-being, and your personal sense of value. Taurus, ruled by Venus, brings a steady, earthy quality, slow to start, but deeply loyal and determined once rooted. It's about building things that last, finding peace through consistency, and surrounding yourself with what brings genuine pleasure. When planets fall in Taurus or the second house, they take on a more tactile, deliberate quality. They want to feel their way through life, through touch, sound, beauty, and the reliability of what's real. These placements speak to how you earn, how you spend, and how you honour your needs. In this series, we'll explore what each placement reveals about your approach to abundance, self-esteem, and lasting value, and what it means when these energies show up in a psychic or astrology dice reading. Let's begin by grounding into what truly matters. Today we're exploring a calm, steady, and deeply grounded placement, the Sun in Taurus, or in the second house. The Sun represents your core identity, purpose, and vitality. Taurus, ruled by Venus, is the sign of stability, sensuality, and value. The second house is all about security, material, emotional, and spiritual. Together, this placement gives you a strong sense of self, rooted in consistency, comfort, and self-worth. With the Sun here, your power comes from presence, not force. You may not need to be loud to make an impact. Your strength lies in reliability, patience, and the ability to keep going when others burn out. You value what can be touched, built, saved, or held, whether that's money, time, trust, or beauty. In career, you thrive in environments where effort pays off steadily. You're not one for sudden gambles. You build slowly but surely, with a focus on long-term reward. You may be drawn to work in finance, design, food, art, or anything that brings comfort and value to others. In relationships, loyalty is everything. You show love through actions, not words, by creating safety, showing up and sticking around. But stubbornness can be a shadow side. Once you've chosen something or someone, it can be hard to let go, even if change is needed. When it comes to health, your body responds best to rhythm and routine. You may enjoy physical pleasures like food, rest, touch, or massage, but too much indulgence can lead to stagnation. Movement that feels pleasurable, not punishing, is your sweet spot. Financially, this is a very grounded placement. You value security and tend to take a cautious, steady approach to money. There's a knack for building wealth slowly, learning through lived experience, and creating lasting resources. If the Sun in Taurus or the second house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to reconnect with your values, to ask, what truly sustains me? You're being called to honour your worth, trust your pace, and step into stability with confidence. It's also a reminder that your purpose doesn't have to be dramatic or chaotic. It might be found in the quiet power of building, protecting, and appreciating what lasts. So ask yourself, am I living in alignment with what I truly value? What am I building that's meant to endure? Because the Sun in Taurus doesn't shine through noise, it shines through substance, and it teaches that strength, when rooted, becomes unshakable. Today we're looking at a grounded and thoughtful placement, Mercury in Taurus, or in the second house. Mercury rules communication, thinking, learning, and how we process the world around us. Taurus, ruled by Venus, is practical, patient, and deeply connected to the physical world. The second house focuses on value, resources, and stability. When Mercury lands here, thought becomes deliberate, speech becomes measured, and the mind is geared toward practical results. This is not a restless or impulsive Mercury. Here, ideas take time to form, but once they do, they're solid. You may not be the quickest to respond, but when you speak, it's with weight and intention. There's often a calming quality to your voice, a preference for clarity over cleverness, and a need to understand through the senses. In daily life, you tend to process information slowly and thoroughly. You prefer what's proven over what's theoretical. You might be a visual or tactile learner, drawn to hands-on methods or concepts that have real-world application. In career, this placement brings skill in finance, design, craftsmanship, planning, or any work that requires patience and attention to detail. You may be especially talented at managing money, handling negotiations, or creating something of lasting value. In relationships, communication is steady and dependable. You don't waste words. You say what you mean, and you mean what you say. Sweet talk doesn't impress you. Sincerity does. You may also have a gift for soothing others with your tone or reassuring presence. Health-wise, mental stress may build slowly rather than burst out. You might bottle things up until they become too heavy. Talking things through, especially in calm and grounded ways, can be very healing. Gentle routines, nature and sensory grounding, like scent or texture, support your clarity. Financially, Mercury here adds a thoughtful, cautious approach. You plan ahead, prefer savings over speculation, and make decisions based on what makes long-term sense. There's a strong connection between what you think and what you value. If Mercury in Taurus or the second house comes up in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to slow your thinking, speak with intention, and trust the value of patience. There may be something you're trying to rush that needs more time to take shape. It also invites you to ask, are my thoughts aligned with my values? Am I speaking from truth or just from habit? Because Mercury in Taurus reminds us that words can build, not just communicate. And when you speak with steady purpose, your voice becomes a tool of lasting power. Today we explore one of Venus's most natural and harmonious placements, Venus in Taurus, or in the second house. Venus rules both Taurus and the second house, so when it lands here, its energy is not only strong, but deeply rooted. This is the placement of someone who finds beauty in simplicity, valuing consistency, and love in the tangible, comforting parts of life. Venus in Taurus, or the second house, creates a love language built around loyalty, presence, and the senses. You express affection through touch, food, gifts, or just being there. You don't fall quickly, but once you do, you're all in. Relationships to you are not just romantic. They're investments in something meaningful and lasting. In terms of personal values, you're deeply connected to your sense of worth. You may have a strong appreciation for art, music, design, nature, or anything that delights the senses. You find joy in what you can touch, taste, and trust. In career, this placement often brings skill with money, aesthetics, or comfort-related industries. Beauty, fashion, hospitality, or finance. You may attract abundance naturally, especially when doing work that aligns with your values. Financially, Venus here is wise and stable. You enjoy luxury, but don't tend to be reckless. You understand the value of quality over quantity and often prefer slow, steady wealth building to risk or flash. Health-wise, this placement responds well to routines that involve pleasure and grounding. Think gentle movement, nourishing food, music, massage, and time in nature. You feel best when life is calm, predictable, and full of small comforts. When Venus in Taurus or the second house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a sign to focus on what truly brings you peace and pleasure. It may be time to reconnect with your body, your senses, or your self-worth. This placement asks, are you honouring what you value, or just settling for what's familiar? It's also a gentle reminder that abundance isn't just about money. It's about feeling safe, loved, and in harmony with your environment. So ask yourself, what do I treasure? And am I surrounding myself with people, places, and experiences that reflect that? Because Venus in Taurus teaches that love, value, and beauty are not passing feelings. They're built, protected, and enjoyed slowly. And when you live by that rhythm, life becomes something truly worth savouring. Today we explore a deeply nurturing and steady emotional foundation, the moon in Taurus, or in the second house. The moon rules your inner world, feelings, needs, memories, and instinctive responses. Taurus is one of the moon's most comfortable placements. It brings calm, security, and emotional strength. The second house mirrors these themes, focusing on value, stability, and what makes you feel safe. Together, this creates an inner life that seeks peace, comfort, and lasting security above all else. With the moon here, emotions are strong but rarely chaotic. You feel deeply, but with patience and grace. You may not be quick to express every mood, but when you do, it's sincere, Emotional needs are simple yet essential: stability, trust, touch, and physical comfort. You thrive in environments where you feel grounded and supported. In relationships, you're loyal, affectionate, and dependable. You show love through actions: cooking, caring, protecting, or just being there. But you may resist emotional upheaval or sudden change, sometimes holding on to people or patterns longer than you should. Career-wise, you're drawn to work that offers emotional and financial security. You may excel in fields connected to food, nature, design, or anything that creates comfort and value for others. Health-wise, routines and physical pleasure are key. You may have a strong connection to your body's rhythms and benefit from regular meals, sleep, and soothing environments. Emotional stress often shows up physically through weight, digestion, or fatigue, so tending to your emotional world is crucial. Financially, this placement is one of the most stable. You're naturally inclined to save, build, and protect what you have. You may have a strong emotional tie to money and possessions. They help you feel safe and anchored. When the moon in Taurus or the second house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to come home to yourself, to ground your emotions in the physical world, to nurture your needs without guilt or delay. It might also point to emotional attachments to material things and a need to reassess what truly brings peace. So ask yourself, what makes me feel safe? Not just in theory, but in practice. Am I giving myself the consistency and care I need to feel whole? Because the moon in Taurus teaches that emotional security is not found in drama or speed, but in steadiness, presence, and the quiet power of knowing what you truly need and allowing yourself to receive it. Today we explore a soul path rooted in simplicity, stability, and self-worth. The North Node in Taurus, or in the second house. The North Node represents your karmic direction, the qualities you're here to grow into, even if they feel unfamiliar at first. Taurus in the second house are about grounding, patience, value, and inner peace. With this placement, your spiritual work is to move away from chaos and craving, and toward calm, contentment, and lasting security. This usually means your South Node, your karmic comfort zone, lies in Scorpio, or the 8th house. You may be used to intensity, emotional drama, crisis cycles, or deep enmeshments with others. In past lives or earlier in this one, survival, secrecy, and control may have been major themes. Now, the soul wants to simplify. You're here to learn to trust the physical world, to build things slowly, to create your own resources, and to know that your worth doesn't come from what others give or take. It comes from within. In relationships, you're learning to let go of emotional overinvestment and find peace in steady, respectful love. You're not here to be rescued. You're here to feel safe, especially within yourself. Career-wise, this path favors work that creates real value. You may be drawn to nature, finance, art, food, or anything that supports a stable, grounded life. Success comes not through obsession or control, but through consistent effort and alignment with what you truly value. Emotionally and spiritually, the growth happens when you embrace stillness, when you stop needing extremes to feel alive, and instead find richness in simplicity. Pleasure, beauty, and the body all become spiritual teachers on this path. When the North Node in Taurus or the second house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to slow down, step back from crisis mode, reconnect with what's real, what's nourishing, and what's yours. It's time to build your life from the ground up, gently but with intention. So ask yourself, where have I been chasing intensity instead of peace? What would happen if I let things be enough, just as they are? Because this North Node reminds you, true power doesn't come from control. It comes from knowing your worth, claiming your space, and choosing calm over chaos, again and again. Today we turn to the path of release and past life comfort, the South Node in Taurus, or in the second house. The South Node reveals habits, traits, and emotional patterns that come naturally, often carried over from previous lifetimes or early experiences in this one. With Taurus or the second house here, the soul is familiar with stability, self-reliance, and material comfort. You've walked this grounded path before. Now it's time to evolve beyond it. This placement suggests a strong attachment to the physical and the familiar. You may instinctively seek safety through routine, possessions, money, or predictability. There's a tendency to cling to what's secure, even when it no longer serves you, out of fear of change or loss. You likely have natural talents for building, earning, and creating beauty. You value loyalty, calm and simplicity. But the challenge, not to stay stuck in comfort. The soul's evolution lies in Scorpio or the 8th house. Learning to let go, to trust in transformation, to move into emotional depth and shared experiences. In relationships, you may need to release habits of emotional detachment, control over resources, or resistance to change. You're being called to step into intimacy, vulnerability, and shared power. True connection requires letting others in, not just materially, but emotionally. Career-wise, you may default to what's stable or profitable, but your growth lies in work that involves transformation, healing, or deeper emotional engagement. Something that asks more than just steady effort. It's about impact, not just income. Emotionally, this South Node can resist growth when it threatens comfort. You may find yourself holding on to people, habits, or beliefs long past their usefulness. But each time you let go, you create space for something more profound to take root. When the South Node in Taurus or the 2nd house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to examine what you're clinging to out of fear. Are you choosing safety over growth? Are you trading transformation for predictability? It's also a reminder that while peace and stability have served you, your soul now seeks depth, not just calm, evolution, not just preservation. So ask yourself, what am I afraid to lose? And what might I gain if I let it go? Because the South Node in Taurus teaches that true value isn't found in what you hold on to, but in what you're willing to release, when your soul is ready to rise. Today we explore a placement that brings persistence, focus, and quiet strength. Mars in Taurus, or in the 2nd house. Mars is the planet of action, desire, drive, and how you pursue what you want. Taurus, ruled by Venus, is slow, steady, and deeply rooted in the material world. The 2nd house reflects our resources, self-worth, money, and what we value. When Mars lands here, energy becomes deliberate, determined, and deeply tied to physical results. Mars in Taurus doesn't rush. It moves with purpose. You may take longer to act than others, but once you begin, you finish. This is the classic placement of someone with staying power. You're not interested in flashy starts or temporary gains. You want real, lasting outcomes. Your motivation often revolves around security, comfort, and material achievement. You're driven to create a stable life, one where your efforts lead to tangible reward. Whether it's building a business, maintaining a strong body, or accumulating wealth, your approach is methodical and patient. In relationships, Mars in Taurus brings sensuality and loyalty. Physical affection and consistency are key. You may not chase, but once committed, you're steady and protective. Just beware of possessiveness or resistance to change. In career, you thrive in environments where endurance and reliability matter. You might excel in finance, construction, farming, design, or anything involving the physical world. You're not afraid of hard work, especially when it leads to long-term reward. Health-wise, this placement often brings strong physical resilience, but energy levels may be slow to rise. Movement that's rhythmic and grounding, like walking, strength training, or gardening, tends to suit you best. Overindulgence or stagnation can be challenges if your routine lacks momentum. Financially, Mars here is motivated to earn and protect resources. You may be cautious with spending, but determined in building wealth. You're not afraid to work steadily toward financial goals. And once you've set your sights on something valuable, it's very difficult to knock you off course. When Mars in Taurus or the 2nd house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a call to act with intention. There's no need to rush, but you do need to commit. This is a moment to invest energy in what truly matters to you, and to keep going even when progress feels slow. So ask yourself, am I moving towards something real, or just staying still out of comfort? What would persistence look like if I trusted the pace? Because Mars in Taurus teaches us that strength isn't always loud or fast. Sometimes it's the quiet, grounded power of not giving up and letting time prove your worth. Today we look at a placement that brings abundance through steadiness. Jupiter in Taurus, or in the 2nd house. Jupiter is the planet of growth, wisdom, expansion, and belief. Taurus is earthy, practical, and sensual. The 2nd house rules money, values, possessions, and self-worth. When Jupiter lands here, it brings blessings through patience, consistency, and a strong connection to the material world. This is someone who grows through building, not rushing. You understand that real wealth, whether financial, emotional, or spiritual, takes time to develop. You may attract opportunities for abundance when you focus on quality over quantity, and when you fully believe in your own value. With Jupiter here, you're likely generous, loyal, and protective of what you've earned. You have a natural appreciation for comfort, beauty, and pleasure, and you're often lucky when it comes to finances, especially when you trust your instincts and don't force things. In career, you may find success in finance, real estate, agriculture, art, or any path where you can build something tangible and enduring. Your work ethic is strong, and you tend to gain more as you go: wealth, wisdom, and confidence. In relationships, you value loyalty and shared values. You express love through consistency, generosity, and providing for others. You may be drawn to partners who are dependable, stable, and share your desire for a beautiful, grounded life. Health-wise, you may thrive with routines that centre on nourishment, pleasure, and the senses. Good food, nature, rest, and gentle movement. There can be a tendency to overindulge at times, especially in comfort-seeking habits. So balance is key. Financially, this is an excellent placement. Jupiter here often brings steady financial growth, especially when efforts are aligned with your values. You're likely to experience increases in income or resources over time, often through wise decisions or natural opportunities that unfold without needing to chase them. When Jupiter in Taurus or the second house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to trust the process of slow growth. You're being encouraged to invest in what you value and to believe that you are worthy of abundance, not just survival. It's also a reminder to enjoy what you have. Sometimes the expansion you're seeking isn't out there, it's already within your hands. So ask yourself, what am I building that's worth keeping? And how can I honour my values through the way I live, earn, and give? Because Jupiter in Taurus teaches that true wealth is more than money. It's peace, purpose, and the ability to enjoy the life you've steadily created. Today we explore a placement rooted in discipline, endurance, and self-worth. Saturn in Taurus, or in the second house. Saturn is the planet of structure, responsibility, and long-term growth. Taurus and the second house both relate to value, money, security, and the physical world. When Saturn is here, the soul is asked to master stability, not just financially, but within the self. This placement often brings a cautious, serious attitude toward money and resources. You may have grown up with a sense of scarcity or learned early that comfort had to be earned. As a result, you might be incredibly responsible, frugal, or hardworking, but also carry hidden fears around not having enough or not being enough. There's great potential here to build lasting wealth and deep self-worth, but it usually takes time. Saturn rewards effort and maturity. You're learning to cultivate security through discipline, not dependence. You may be slow to trust or spend, but once you commit to something, you build it to last. In relationships, you value loyalty and consistency above all. You may be slow to open, but deeply dependable once trust is earned. Love to you is shown through actions, especially acts of service, protection, and provision. In career, you're driven to succeed through steady, tangible work. You may feel pressure to prove your worth materially, or to take on extra responsibility to create a stable foundation. You're likely to thrive in finance, construction, business, or any field where patience and structure are key. Health-wise, this placement benefits from consistent routines and grounding activities. You may store tension in the body, particularly the neck, throat, or jaw. Letting go of control and allowing for pleasure can be a powerful form of healing. Financially, Saturn in Taurus or the second house brings the potential for long-term security, but often through lessons. You may experience delays, restrictions, or tests around money, but each challenge helps you become more self-sufficient and resilient. When Saturn in Taurus or the second house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to take stock of your values, your resources, and your sense of self-worth. Where are you undervaluing yourself? What are you willing to commit to? Not just for comfort now, but for stability later. It's also a reminder that building something meaningful takes time. You don't have to rush, but you do have to stay grounded. So ask yourself, am I building a life I trust to support me, or just surviving out of fear? because Saturn in Taurus teaches us that true security isn't handed to us. It's earned through wisdom, patience, and knowing your worth from the inside out. Today we explore a placement that disrupts the familiar and redefines value, Uranus in Taurus, or in the second house. Uranus is the planet of innovation, upheaval, freedom, and sudden change. Taurus in the second house represents stability, money, self-worth, and the material world. When Uranus is here, the usual Taurus need for comfort is shaken, and the soul is pushed to evolve by embracing unpredictability in the realm of security. This placement often brings a love-hate relationship with stability. You might crave it, but struggle to feel at ease in it for long. Your income, values, or self-worth may shift dramatically at different stages in life. Traditional paths to success and security may not appeal to you, or may simply not work the way they do for others. You're meant to do things differently, whether it's how you earn money, define value, or build your life. Uranus here encourages originality. You may be drawn to unconventional work, alternative economies, or technology-based industries. Entrepreneurship, investing in future trends, or working independently can all be doors to success. In relationships, you seek partners who honor your individuality and changing values. You're not easily tied down by expectations, and your expression of love might change as you do. Financially, this placement can bring ups and downs. You might earn money unexpectedly, through unusual channels, or experience sudden changes in income. Learning how to navigate uncertainty while staying grounded is one of your key challenges and strengths. Health-wise, the nervous system may be sensitive. You might benefit from grounding practices, body awareness, and creating a flexible but reliable routine that supports your physical well-being without becoming rigid. When Uranus in Taurus, or the second house, appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a sign that your relationship to money, stability, or self-worth is ready for a breakthrough. You're being asked to break free from outdated definitions of security and trust that freedom can be just as grounding as tradition, if not more. It's also an invitation to embrace your quirks and create a life that reflects your true values, not society's expectations. So ask yourself, what have I been clinging to out of fear? And what would change if I allowed more freedom in how I live, earn, and love? Because Uranus in Taurus teaches that true value isn't fixed, it's discovered. And sometimes, shaking the foundations is what allows the soul to build something authentically yours. Today we're entering a dreamier, more elusive space, Neptune in Taurus, or in the second house. Neptune is the planet of dreams, illusion, compassion, and spiritual longing. Taurus and the second house deal with stability, self-worth, money, and the material world. When Neptune lands here, the soul's relationship to value and security becomes fluid, intuitive, and often mysterious. This placement blends the spiritual with the physical. You may long for beauty, comfort, and peace, but struggle to define what truly satisfies you. Material things may attract you, but never fully feel the deeper longing that Neptune stirs. There can be a romantic or idealistic view of money, possessions, or relationships, and a tendency to seek meaning in the tangible, only to realize the real fulfillment comes from something less definable. You may be naturally artistic, with a strong aesthetic sense, and the ability to turn simple things into something beautiful. Music, scent, texture, and touch may speak to you on a soul level. You might also have healing gifts that involve the body, such as massage, energy work, or intuitive financial guidance. In career, this placement can bring success through creative or spiritual paths, especially where beauty and compassion intersect. But clarity around money can be tricky. You may undercharge, overspend, or avoid practical details. Grounding your dreams into a practical structure is part of your journey. In relationships, you may idealize love or seek emotional safety through material expressions, gifts, touch, shared space. Boundaries may be soft, and there's a risk of giving too much to feel valued. Learning to separate emotional and financial security is key. Health-wise, you may be sensitive to food, substances, or environmental energy. Grounding your body through rest, rhythm, and nourishing practices helps stabilize Neptune's ethereal pull. Financially, this placement can go in two directions: either material confusion and avoidance, or a deep spiritual approach to money and value. When balanced, you may use your resources to support others, create beauty, or bring healing into the world. When Neptune in Taurus or the second house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to look beyond appearances. You're being asked to question what you truly value, not just in your bank account, but in your soul. This may be a time to let go of false security and embrace a more spiritual understanding of abundance. So ask yourself, am I chasing comfort or am I seeking meaning? And what truly nourishes me beyond the physical? Because Neptune in Taurus teaches us that real value isn't always visible, it's felt. And when you align your material life with your inner truth, peace becomes your greatest wealth. Today we explore a powerful and deeply rooted placement, Pluto in Taurus, or in the second house. Pluto is the planet of transformation, power, control, and rebirth. Taurus in the second house governs stability, money, possessions, self-worth, and physical security. When Pluto lands here, it brings intense energy to the material world, revealing what's hidden beneath the surface of what you own, want, and value. This placement often indicates a lifelong journey of transforming your relationship with security. You may experience major shifts around finances, self-esteem, or possessions, cycles of gain, loss, and regeneration. What you hold on to most tightly may be exactly what life asks you to evolve through. With Pluto here, you may have a powerful drive to accumulate resources or control your environment. You might link safety with ownership of money, assets, even emotional control. But true empowerment comes when you realize that real worth isn't external, it's internal and unshakable. In relationships, Pluto in the second house can manifest as deep loyalty but also possessiveness. You may struggle with letting go or experience power dynamics around money and emotional security. Learning to trust, share, and release control is part of your growth. Career-wise, this placement brings intensity, persistence, and strategic thinking. You might be drawn to finance, psychology, business, or any field that requires long-term vision and the ability to influence or manage power. There's potential for great wealth, but it usually comes through facing inner fears around loss or control. Health-wise, emotional stress can settle in the body, particularly the throat, neck, or digestive system. You benefit from body-focused healing, shadow work, and practices that help you feel safe letting go. Financially, this placement can bring extremes, times of plenty and scarcity, but it's all about how you respond. The aim is to develop unshakable inner stability, no matter what's happening externally. When you stop fearing loss, you gain real power. When Pluto in Taurus or the second house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it signals a deep shift in your values or your sense of security. Something may be crumbling so that something stronger can take its place. It's a moment to release attachment to what no longer holds true power and reclaim what does. So ask yourself, what am I clinging to out of fear? And what might open up if I allow transformation to take place? Because Pluto in Taurus teaches that true value isn't found in what you possess. It's found in who you become when everything else is stripped away. And from that foundation, you can rebuild real, lasting power.